That's right, folks, you read the video title right. After being stuck in creation limbo for over a month waiting for confirmation on either Castaris's passive being removed or added in, only for it to be added into the game in the end, which hurt our soul, we won't lie. And we gotta say, it's rather ironic that the thing to end this account isn't the path of destruction or the curse of the hunt, but instead it is poor decisions, even poorer game balancing as well as good old-fashioned corporate greed. But hey, we're getting ahead of ourselves. And let's be real, you didn't click on this finale episode just to hear us grumble about HSR's abysmal balancing and terrible stories. But if you are curious about that kind of stuff, then there's a whole Let's Talk episode that you can watch that goes over our general feeling of HSR at the current time. No, rather you clicked on this episode because you were wondering one of two things. A, did we ever get Tribbie in the end? And B, did we ever end up completing the challenge that we set ourselves for this account over a year ago now? Well, let's find out. But before we get into it, let us start this episode the right way for the last time. Why, hello there, and welcome back to our Harmony-only challenge. Today we take yet another dip into the Gacha pull, this time in hopes of acquiring the Newest Harmoneer in the form of the ever-adorable trio of Tribbie, Trinan, and Trian. But not only that, we will also be blowing a rather hefty 3,000 Star Rail fuel in order to build them up during this episode, in order to see whether we will have yet another Sunday situation on our hands, or see whether Tribbie will blow our expectations clean out of the water. And hey, if you like what you see, please consider giving us a like, comment, or even subscribing to the channel. It would be a pleasure to have you aboard, and without further ado, it is time to get into the summons. So after arriving at our lucky spot and receiving the Foxian blessing from the ever-so-lovely Ting Yun, we jumped into the summon screen and armed with our newly applied Foxian blessing and a very respectable 170 pulls to our name, it was finally time to see whether we could bring home our Newest Harmoneer. But before that, one last thing. Maestro, if you would be so kind.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready? Ready!
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. After 110 pulls and a heart-shattering 50-50 loss to Little Geppy, we finally managed to secure ourselves Tribbie. However, that isn't where this story ends, because in typical fashion, this is only just the beginning of our battle against the forces of RNG, because now we have to try our luck on the weapon banner and try our best to get Tribbie her Lightcone before we decide to move on with the video. And so for the last time in the history of this account, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to delve once more onto the breach. Hoyoverse?
Did you do it?
Yes.
And what did it cost?
Everything.
Yeah, boy.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. After exhausting all but one of our summons, we managed to secure not only Tribbie, but also their Lightcone. However, that our friends was the easy part of this entire endeavor, because now it is time to build them up and bring them in line with the rest of our Harmoneers. So to quote a movie of old, the beginning is a very good place to start, so cue the montage. And so, after farming the materials for both Tribbie's ascension and her character levels, we moved on and began farming materials for her Lightcone and skills in the Penacony Harmony Calyx. And ladies and gentlemen, we gotta level with you. To say that this endeavor took ages is a severe understatement, because as of editing this portion of the episode, we currently have over 7+ hours worth of footage to comb through for this particular part of the montage. So yay. But seriously, all kidding aside, to save you all from that fate, we'll be making fairly short work of this segment and only showing the important parts and upgrades we got for her during this time. So, enjoy.
Hey, that's pretty good.
What the heck?
Don't care, don't care, don't care, still don't care.
Oh, come on!
So, at this particular point during the montage, we had finally bought Tribbie in line with the rest of our Harmoneers in terms of levels, skills, and relics, and the only thing that was left for us to do was to do a damage test with her before we ended the episode. However, little did we know at the time was that we was not prepared for the results of this particular damage test. And as we carried on, we began experimenting with teams for Tribbie. Our first team was composed of Yukong, Tribbie, Sparkle, and Sunday, which was decent, however, as sad as it is to say the addition of Yukong in this team weighed it down considerably as her lack of Eidolons. And as such, her quality of life mechanics made playing her in this particular team very finicky. Next up, we tried a team consisting of Hanya, Tribbie, Sparkle, and Sunday, which was a considerable upgrade over the team consisting of Yukong in both usability and fun factor. However, it was still missing that certain spark that brought our Harmony Break team to life. That was until we tried our third team option consisting of Bronya, Tribbie, Sparkle, and Sunday, and it was at this point where the spark we were searching for this particular team was ignited, because for the first time in the entirety of the account, we were hitting damage for the tens of thousands, which, to put it into perspective, while our Harmony Break team can hit for that damage, they do require Robins, buffed to do so while this team had the raw damage up front. And it was this damage that encouraged us to do something we haven't done while building our Harmoneers up to this point, and that our friends is to max out our first Harmoneer of the account. And so, in this pursuit, we returned to the Penacony Harmony Calyx to farm up the remaining talent materials needed to max her out, and after many, many hours of grinding the same Calyx, we finally managed to get all of the required talent materials needed to max out Tribbie's skills, and, in turn, unlock the achievement, I have finished the rat race. And so, with our Tribbie fully maxed and equipped with the best relics we can muster at the moment, it was finally time for us to find out the answer to the question that we asked ourselves over a year ago now.
Holy... Look at all this damage!
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Using our new and rather busted Harmoneer in Tribbie, we managed to complete the Memory of Chaos, Pure Fiction, and Apocalyptic Shadow, and yes, before you comment below saying that we didn't complete all the stages of these endgame modes. So this doesn't count, we beg to differ. You see, as time went on and we worked on this account, we have continuously witnessed the ever-increasing and rather appalling HP bloat and power creep compared to when we first started our adventures in the Herta space station and Belobog, and it became rather clear rather quickly to us that we were never going to 36-star the endgame modes, no matter how much time we invest or how hard we grind. And this sentiment was only further enforced as time went on and bosses like Hu Lei and the Shadow of Fei Xiao made their way into the game, and with them the ever-increasing power ceiling requirements for newer characters. So, us having accomplished the score that we have during this episode actually makes us feel rather good, as it's much better than anything we thought we were going to be able to accomplish in this challenge, given the current state of power creep in the game right now. But regardless, we now finally have our answer after a year's worth of work and grinding. So, can you beat Honkai Star Rail with only Harmony units? Yes, you can. Although if you're planning on taking on this challenge, be prepared to be humbled a lot on your journey as you do it, just as we were. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, our journey in Honkai Star Rail has come to a close. Thank you all so much for your support on this series and for sticking with us until the very end. It truly does mean a lot to us, and until next time, ladies and gentlemen, remember to take care, stay safe, and we'll see you all in the next one.